The training hall of the Galactic Defense Academy was cold, bright, and silent. Hundreds of metal panels covered the walls, and every panel hid machines that could change pressure, heat, and gravity. Alien cadets filled the hall. They stood in long rows, breathing fast, waiting for the test to begin. At the end of the line stood one human, Cadet Ryan Hale. He was the only human in his class, and almost everyone stared at him. Some stared with curiosity. Others stared with doubt. A few watched him with open amusement, whispering to their friends. "Humans are soft," one cadet muttered. "They come from a weak planet," another replied. "They won't last 10 seconds," a third one added. Ryan heard every word, but he did not react. He kept his eyes forward, standing tall. His uniform was simple, but his posture was steady and calm. He looked like he had been standing in formation his whole life. Then the doors slammed open. Drill Sergeant Vorik entered the hall. He was tall, covered in gray armor-like skin, and had 4 long arms folded behind his back. His steps echoed loudly as he walked to the front. Every cadet straightened up, even Ryan. Vorik's voice was sharp. "Today we test your bodies. Tomorrow we test your minds. But first, gravity." A low murmur spread across the room. Everyone knew this test was the hardest part of early training. Gravity control could break bones if used carelessly. Some cadets already looked nervous. Vorik raised his hand. A small device glowed red in his palm. "This hall currently runs at standard gravity," he said. "Comfortable, easy, safe." His eyes moved across the rows of aliens until they reached Ryan. "Let us see who survives something harder." He pressed the device. The floor vibrated. The lights flickered. A heavy force settled on every cadet's shoulders. Dozens of aliens gasped as the gravity doubled. Knees bent, backs curved. Several cadets fell to the ground at once. But Ryan did not move. He did not bend. He did not gasp. He simply blinked slowly. Cadets stared at him in disbelief. Is he not feeling it?" one whispered. Vorik frowned. "Human, step forward." Ryan stepped forward easily, as if the gravity was normal. The sergeant's eyes narrowed. "Did you not feel the change?" Ryan answered calmly. "I felt it, sir." "Then why are you not struggling?" Ryan shook his head slightly. "It's not that heavy." A wave of shock rolled through the hall. Vorik's jaw tightened. He pressed the device again. The gravity increased by another 20%. More aliens collapsed. One screamed as his legs gave out. Even the strongest species were shaking. Ryan simply shifted his stance like he was adjusting to a mild breeze. Vorik's voice dropped to a growl. "Explain yourself, human." Ryan answered with the same calm tone. "I train on Earth. My unit practiced under heavy load. My father used to say, 'Stronger gravity makes a stronger spine.'" Some cadets whispered, confused. Stronger gravity? They had never heard of such training. Vorik stepped closer to Ryan, his voice low. "This test breaks soldiers. Even elite species fall here. Yet you do not flinch." Ryan looked straight ahead. "Sir, I am trying to follow instructions." "Follow instructions?" Vorik almost laughed. "You stand like this gravity is nothing." Ryan did not smile, but his voice stayed steady. "It is heavier than Earth, sir, but not by much." Silence filled the room. Aliens who were still standing stared at Ryan, unsure if he was insane or incredible. Vorik turned his back to Ryan and walked to the center of the hall again. "Very well," he said louder. "If the human does not feel challenged." He lifted the device. "Then the real test starts now." The lights dimmed. The floor shook harder. The cadets braced themselves. Ryan kept his eyes forward, ready. The gravity test was far from over. The training hall stayed dim, and the heavy force of the air felt stronger with every passing second. The alien cadets were breathing roughly now. A few tried to stand again but fell right back down. Others pushed their hands against the floor, fighting the invisible weight pressing on them. Cadet Ryan Hale remained still. He did not look bored, but he also did not look stressed. His face carried a calm, focused expression, like someone waiting for instructions in a normal class. That calmness made the tension in the hall grow even sharper. Sergeant Vorak watched Ryan with narrowed eyes. He held the gravity device loosely in one of his four hands, and his voice echoed with irritation. "Human," he said. "Step forward again." Ryan stepped forward. His boot made a clear sound against the metal floor. Steady, clean, not dragged by a heavy weight. The sound made several cadets twitch in disbelief. Vorak circled him slowly, studying every detail. "Your bones should be cracking under this pressure," the sergeant said. "Your muscles should be shaking. Even I feel this weight." Ryan looked straight ahead. "I feel it too, sir." "But you still refuse to fall." Ryan answered quietly. "My legs know how to carry me." Alien cadets whispered among themselves. "Is he built differently? Maybe humans are denser than they look." "No, he must be pretending." "He can't be pretending at this level." Vorak ignored their murmurs. He suddenly slammed the gravity device against his palm. The force in the room increased again, slowly but steadily, like a giant hand tightening its grip. A loud crack echoed across the hall as a cadet fainted and hit the floor. Others groaned in pain. Even Ryan's breathing changed. His chest rose a little slower and his shoulders dipped slightly. It was the first sign that he was finally feeling the pressure. Vorak noticed it immediately. "Ah," the sergeant said. "So the human bleeds after all." Ryan corrected him softly. "Sir, I don't bleed, but I feel the weight." Vorak stopped in front of him. His eyes were sharp, but something new was hidden behind them, curiosity. "You are not like other species," he said. "Most of them complain when gravity increases by even 20%. You stand under more than double. Why?" Ryan did not move his head, but his voice sounded distant, like he remembered something. "Earth teaches people to adapt, sir. My home is not perfect. We grow up under weather that changes fast. Storms come suddenly. Mountains are tall. Gravity is not extreme, but life is heavy. We train by carrying loads on our back. Day after day, we run with weight. We work with weight." He paused. "And we don't stop unless we must." The room fell silent. Even the aliens who were groaning stopped to listen. Vorak's arms tightened behind him. "So this is normal to you?" "No, sir," Ryan answered calmly. "This is heavy, but heavy does not mean impossible." The sergeant turned away and addressed the entire hall. "Cadets, take a good look at this human. He stands because he accepts the weight. Many of you fall because you fear it." Some cadets felt embarrassed. Some felt angry. Others felt inspired. A tall, silver-skinned alien named Tyrsa forced herself to stand again, shaking hard. She leaned forward and stared at Ryan in awe. "How are you so calm?" she asked. Ryan looked at her, gentle but firm. "Because panic makes it heavier. Breathing makes it lighter." Tyrsa nodded slowly as if she understood. Vorak suddenly snapped. Silence. Everyone froze again. He raised the device one more time. "We will test the human further. But the rest of you, this is no longer about gravity. This is about will." Some aliens swallowed hard. Others braced themselves. Vorak tightened his grip and pressed the device again. The gravity surged. It was now so heavy that even Ryan bent slightly at the knees. His fingers curled. His jaw clenched. His breathing became deeper. Finally, the human was struggling. Cadets watched with wide eyes. Will he fall? He has to fall now. No one can stand under this much weight. Ryan's legs shook once, but he strengthened his stance and forced his posture upright again. Vorak's expression changed. The anger faded. Respect began to show. "You refuse to fall," the sergeant said quietly. Ryan answered through controlled breaths. "If I fall, sir, I will stand again. So why fall at all?" Multiple cadets gasped. This wasn't arrogance. It wasn't pride. It was discipline. Ryan wasn't trying to show off. He just believed in standing. Suddenly, a deep alarm sounded across the hall. Whew, whew, whew. The gravity generator warning lights flashed red along the walls. Vorak spun around. "What happened?" A robotic voice answered overhead. "Gravity system unstable. Pressure spike detected." The ground shook. A heavy boom echoed deep under the metal floor. The gravity wavered, then spiked harshly. Alien cadets screamed. Everyone fell instantly. Everyone except Ryan. He staggered but stayed upright, one foot pushing against the floor, as if he was holding the whole room steady by himself. Vorik grabbed onto a rail, his face full of shock. "Human, stay still," the sergeant shouted. "Do not move. The system is malfunctioning." Ryan shouted back, "Sir, the cadets, some of them can't breathe. Do not try to help them." Vorik barked, "You will get crushed." Ryan looked at the struggling aliens around him. Then he made his choice. He stepped forward, and the floor creaked under his boot as gravity tried to stop him. The cadets stared in awe. The sergeant stared in disbelief. The human moved anyway. He moved toward the fallen trainees. Because someone had to. Because standing wasn't enough anymore. Now he had to act. The gravity spike hit the training hall like a giant invisible hammer. The metal floor groaned under force, and lights flickered wildly overhead. Alien cadets lay flat on the ground, gasping for air, unable to lift even a finger. Only Ryan Hale remained standing, barely. His legs trembled. Every breath felt like pushing against a wall. Sweat rolled down his face. The weight was terrible, worse than anything he had ever experienced. But he didn't stop. A small, blue-skinned cadet named Kiri lay closest to him. Her entire body was shaking, and her fingers clawed weakly at the floor. "I can't breathe," she whispered, struggling to say even a single word. Ryan forced one heavy step forward. The gravity fought him, pushing down with crushing strength. His muscles screamed. His knees wanted to give out. But he planted his foot firmly and took the next step. Vorik gripped the handrail tightly, eyes wide. "Human, stop. The system is unstable. If you fall now, you might never stand again." Ryan didn't reply. He couldn't speak, not under this pressure. But he could still move. He reached Kiri and bent down slowly, carefully, fighting the massive weight pressing down on his back. Kiri looked up at him with wide, panicked eyes. "Why, you can't lift me. The gravity, it's too strong." Ryan didn't answer. His arms slid under her, his hands locked behind her back. His entire body shook as he pushed upward. Kiri's eyes widened. Ryan was lifting her, even under the crushing gravity. He stood slowly, corrected his balance, and held the small alien cadet firmly against him. "Breathe slow," he whispered through clenched teeth. Kiri tried, copying his breathing rhythm. Her panic eased just a little. Vorik stared in disbelief. "This is impossible. Even I cannot stand with extra weight in these conditions." Ryan turned his head slightly. "Sir, then please turn it off." "I can't," Vorik shouted. "The safety system locked. We must wait for engineering." Ryan didn't have time to argue. More cadets were choking. Some were losing consciousness. He looked at the far wall, where the emergency exit door waited. If he could reach it, he could get Kiri to normal gravity. Maybe others could crawl behind him. But the distance looked like miles under the current pressure. Still, he moved. One heavy step. Another. And another. With each step, the gravity pressed harder, like an angry beast trying to crush him to the floor. Sparks flew from the ceiling. A loud booming noise shook the room. The lights went dark for a moment before emergency lighting flickered back on. Ursa, the tall silver cadet, looked up from the floor. She could barely lift her head. "Ryan, how are you doing this?" Ryan didn't look back. He focused on walking, on not falling. Inside his mind, memories flashed, old training days back on Earth, running with a weighted pack, climbing steep hills. His father's voice. "Strength is not in your muscles. It's in your choices." That voice pushed him forward. Vorik's deep voice echoed through the hall. "Human, you cannot carry others. You will break." Ryan's answer came through clenched jaw muscles. "Then, I'll break after they're safe." Vorik fell silent. For the first time, the sergeant saw something he had never seen before, not arrogance, not defiance, but pure dedication. Ryan reached the emergency door and gently put Kiri down beside it. She breathed easier, the emergency zone slightly reduced in pressure around her. "TA, thank you," she whispered. Ryan nodded and turned back toward the others. Vorik yelled from the far end. Don't you dare. You'll kill yourself. Ryan took another step away from safety. I'm not leaving them, he said. Tyrsa tried to push herself off the floor, her hands trembling. Ryan, please, let someone else help. But no one else could move. He walked back into the crushing weight, legs shaking violently, arms hanging heavy at his sides, but eyes determined. A large, orange-scale cadet lay halfway across the hall. His species was strong under normal gravity, but this spike had pinned him completely. Ryan reached him and crouched very slowly. His spine felt like it might snap, but he ignored the pain and slid his arms under the alien's shoulders. The alien looked up weakly. Why, human, why are you doing this? Ryan struggled for words, speaking between breaths. Because we are team. The alien blinked, almost in tears. No one had ever said that to him before. Ryan lifted again, this time much heavier than Kiri. Every vein in his body strained, his vision blurred, his teeth clenched so hard they hurt. But he lifted. Vorik almost stepped forward to help, but was forced back by the gravity. He watched helpless as Ryan carried the heavy cadet toward the emergency zone. Ryan stumbled once. Everyone held their breath, but he didn't fall. He planted his foot again. He regained balance. He kept walking. He delivered the cadet to safety and set him down carefully. 2 saved. Tyrsa's voice cracked through the hall. Ryan, why keep going? You can't save everyone. Ryan looked at her from across the hall. His face was pale, but his eyes were bright. Maybe not, he said softly, but I can save someone. He turned and moved again, back into the crushing dark, back into the weight that wanted him dead. He was slower now. His steps were smaller, but he did not stop. Even Vorik felt a strange feeling in his chest. It was not anger, not confusion. It was respect. Deep, growing respect. The sergeant whispered to himself. So this is the strength of humans. Ryan reached another cadet, dragging himself through the darkness. He leaned down to lift them, and suddenly the whole hall shook with a massive, dangerous rumble. The gravity generator was reaching its limit. Something terrible was coming. The floor trembled as if something deep below the training hall had awakened. A piercing metallic groan echoed from the gravity generator chamber, long, sharp, and dangerous. Every alien cadet froze, even those barely conscious. Ryan Hale felt the vibration travel through his boots. He steadied himself, one knee bent under the crushing force, one hand pressed against the metal floor. The cadet he had reached, a small red-skinned trainee named Vel, stared at him with terrified eyes. Is it going to explode? Vel whispered weakly. Ryan didn't answer. He didn't know. But he did know one thing. If the generator failed completely, the gravity spike could rise even higher. It could crush everyone in the room. Vorik shouted across the hall. His voice strained as he held on to a rail. Human, leave the cadet and get to safety. The generator is unstable. Ryan closed his eyes for a brief moment. His legs felt like they were made of stone. His back felt like it was splitting. His arms were numb from carrying 2 cadets already. But he opened his eyes again, and he made his choice. I'm not abandoning him, Ryan said. Vorik slammed one of his fists against the railing. You stubborn earthborn fool. You will get yourself killed. Ryan shook his head. Only if I give up. He reached beneath Vel's shoulders and pulled upward. His arms trembled violently. His jaw clenched. His entire body shook. Vel felt the strain and whispered, You don't have to save me. Ryan forced a small breath. If I was on the floor, wouldn't you want someone to try? Vel blinked, stunned. No one had ever said something like that to him. The gravity surged again without warning. A massive boom shook the hall. The weight nearly forced Ryan to his knees. He bent down, his face inches from the floor, arms barely supporting Vel's upper body. Tyrsa cried out, Ryan, stop. You're going to break. He didn't respond. He pushed. Slowly, painfully, Ryan lifted Vel into his arms. The cadet weighed so much under the extreme gravity spike that it felt like lifting a boulder. Sweat dripped from Ryan's hair. His breathing was ragged, but he stood. Cadets on the ground could hardly believe what they were seeing. Their vision blurred. their limbs numb, yet they watched the lone human standing tall against gravity that should have crushed him. Vorik stared, speechless. Something inside him shifted, anger melting away into something much deeper. Respect, pride, awe. Ryan adjusted his grip and turned toward the emergency zone. His legs shook violently. Each step was a battle. His boots scraped the floor because he couldn't lift them fully, but he kept moving. Step, step, step. Every footfall echoed like a war drum in the silent hall. The lights flickered. The ceiling rattled. Warning sirens blared overhead. Gravity system critical. Failure imminent. Vorik shouted, "Human, if you do not reach the emergency zone in 10 seconds, the next spike will crush you both." Ryan stopped walking for a moment. He took a deep breath. Then he bent forward, lowered his stance, and began half lifting, half dragging Vel faster. Cadets cheered weakly from the floor, voices strained. "You can do it. Go, human, go. Don't stop, don't you stop." Ryan pushed harder. His muscles felt like they were tearing. His bones felt hot. His heart hammered painfully in his chest. But Vel's whimpering breath kept him moving. 5 meters. 4 meters. 3. Another violent rumble. The gravity slammed down again. Ryan almost fell. His knee touched the floor. Just for a moment. Cadets gasped. Vorik growled in fear. But Ryan forced himself up again, shaking like a dying engine. 2 meters. 1. He stumbled into the emergency zone and dropped to one knee. The gravity lightened slightly, enough for Vel to breathe again. Ryan carefully lowered the cadet to the ground. Vel's eyes filled with tears. Thank you. Ryan nodded weakly. His chest rose and fell with sharp, painful breaths. But he wasn't done. He looked back into the hall. Dozens of cadets still lay under crushing gravity, some unconscious, some barely breathing, some crying silently. And deep inside, Ryan knew he couldn't let them die here. He wouldn't let them die here. He stood up again, slowly, painfully, and turned toward the dangerous, unstable room. Tyrus shouted, "Ryan, no, the next spike might kill you." Ryan wiped sweat from his forehead. His voice was quiet and raw. "Then it'll have to catch me first." Vorik stared at him, stunned. The human's determination was beyond anything he had ever seen. Even the strongest warriors of his own species would have stopped by now. Ryan stepped forward into the crushing weight, once more. But before he could take a second step, the entire hall went dark. A heavy, deep rumble shook the floor. The gravity system roared like a collapsing mountain. Then, boom, a massive explosion burst from the generator chamber. The gravity slammed down so hard that even Ryan dropped to both knees. The force pushed him flat against the cold metal floor. He could not move. No one could move. The lights flickered back on in deep red. Vorik shouted over the alarm, voice full of real fear. "The generator is going into a total meltdown. All cadets, prepare for critical gravity collapse." Ryan's heart pounded. He knew what that meant. If the generator fully failed, the next spike wouldn't just crush bones. It would kill every living being in the hall. And the countdown had already begun. Red lights flashed across the ruined training hall. Warning sirens shook the air, screaming the same message again and again. Gravity core meltdown in progress. Evacuate immediately. But there was no evacuation. The gravity was too high. No one could move. Ryan Hale lay pressed against the metal floor. His arms were pinned. His legs were locked. It felt like a mountain was crushing him. He could barely breathe. His heartbeat thudded painfully in his ears. Across the room, Vorik clung to the handrail with all 4 arms. Even he, one of the strongest species in the academy, could not lift his chest off the ground now. "Human," Vorik shouted through clenched teeth, "do not move. The collapse will hit in less than 1 minute." Ryan tried to answer, but his voice came out as a whisper. "If it hits, we're all dead anyway." Another violent rumble shook the metal floor. A robotic voice blared overhead. 30 seconds to core failure. Cadets sobbed weakly. Some whispered goodbyes. Some prayed in alien languages. The hall smelled of fear and metal. Ryan forced his fingers to move. Just a little. He pressed them against the floor and pushed. Nothing happened. The gravity was too strong. Tyrsa, he heard a faint voice. Kiri, the small blue cadet, crawled only an inch toward her friend. She couldn't reach her. Tyrsa, hold on. Tyrsa couldn't even lift her head. I can't breathe. Ryan closed his eyes. Their voices stabbed into him like knives. He couldn't let them die. He refused to let this be the end. His father's voice echoed in his memory. A distant, warm voice from Earth. When life gets heavy, carry someone with you. It makes you stronger. Ryan opened his eyes. He had to move. He had no choice. His arm shook violently as he pushed again. A tiny movement. Then another. His chest lifted a couple of centimeters off the floor before slamming back down. Pain shot through his ribs. But he didn't stop. Vorik watched him with wide eyes. Human, you cannot fight gravity itself. Ryan's voice was faint but steady. Watch me. 20 seconds to core failure. Ryan forced his knee upward. The gravity pressed down like 1,000 hands trying to crush him into the floor. His body trembled uncontrollably. He pushed again. His knee lifted. Just an inch. But it was enough. He planted his boot and pushed off it like a lever. His body rose, slow, shaking, but rising. Cadets all around him stared with disbelief. He's standing. No way under this gravity. How is that human still moving? 15 seconds to core failure. Ryan didn't stand fully. He crouched low to keep balance, fighting gravity with every breath. Vorik shouted across the hall, Human, what are you doing? Ryan looked toward the far corner of the room, the source of the meltdown. Smoke poured from a small service hatch beside the main generator, the override panel. If someone reached it, they could shut the system down. But no one could walk under this much gravity. No one but him. Ryan whispered, I'm going to the override. Gasps spread across the hall. Tyrsa's voice cracked. Ryan, you'll die. Ryan wiped blood from his lip. Then at least, I'll die trying. He stepped forward. Gravity slammed down. His leg nearly buckled. His ankles shook wildly. He forced another step. Then another. Every step felt like lifting his entire body through wet cement. His bones felt like they were bending. His muscles felt like they were tearing apart. But he walked. 10 seconds to core failure. Smoke filled his lungs. Sparks rained from the ceiling above. The corridor ahead glowed red, like walking into fire. Ryan, Vel shouted. Please don't. You already saved us. Ryan didn't look back. I can save more. He dragged himself across the hall, leaving sweat and blood on the floor behind him. 6 seconds to core failure. He reached the panel. Barely. His hands shook so badly he could not grasp the latch. He forced his fingers under it. Pulled. The panel opened with a loud clang. Inside, wires sparked violently. Vorik screamed, Human, do not touch. 5 seconds. Ryan slammed his fist into the emergency shutdown switch. Nothing happened. A small red screen blinked. Manual trigger required. Physical override. Ryan whispered, Of course. 4 seconds. He grabbed the heavy metal lever inside the panel. His hands barely moved it. His arms shook violently. 3 seconds. He screamed through clenched teeth and pulled with every ounce of strength left in him. 2 seconds. The lever moved a little. A tiny click. Not enough. Ryan roared, Come on, and pulled again. 1. A loud thud shook the room. The lever slammed fully down. The entire hall went silent. Then, phoom, a wave of soft, normal pressure washed across the room as the gravity dropped instantly back to safe levels. Cadets gasped and lifted themselves off the floor. Some cried. Some laughed from relief. Ryan collapsed backward, unconscious, breathing faintly but alive. Vorik ran to him, knelt beside his body, and stared at the human in disbelief. By the stars, the sergeant whispered. What kind of species are you? He placed a hand gently on Ryan's shoulder. You just saved everyone. The training hall was silent when Yarrick and Rin returned with the other cadets. No one spoke. No one even looked at Yarrick directly. Every alien in the room now watched him with a strange mix of fear, respect, and disbelief. A few even stepped aside to clear a path for him, as if he were some dangerous creature that might explode at any moment. Yarrick felt none of their fear. He only felt the steady beat of determination in his chest. He had a mission now. He had to prove that the human spirit was not weak. He had to prove that Earth, even without giant ships or ancient armies, was still powerful in its own way. But he also knew something else. Whatever came next, it would be even harder. Sergeant Draxus appeared again, stepping to the metal doors with his sharp claws clicking on the floor. His wings twitched behind him, an alien gesture of annoyance or maybe excitement. No one could tell. "Cadets," he said, voice echoing through the hall. "You have survived the standard gravity tests, except for one of you." His eyes locked on Yarrick. "But today, we move beyond the standard." A cold shiver ran through the room. Draxus pressed a button on his tablet. A heavy alarm boomed. "Warning, gravity chamber activated. Maximum settings." Some cadets gasped. Others whispered in panic. Everyone knew the stories about the gravity chamber. Even advanced species like the Thalians or Rakkar avoided it unless they were elite soldiers. The chamber could crush bones, burst lungs, and make even strong warriors collapse in seconds. Draxus pointed at Yarrick. "You, human, step forward." Yarrick inhaled slowly, then walked to the center of the room. Rin grabbed his arm for a second. "Yarrick, this is not a normal test. Many fail. Some get hurt. You don't have to prove everything today." He gave her a small smile. "If I step back now, I prove nothing." She let go, though her tail curled with worry. Yarrick stepped into the circle. A metallic platform rose from the ground, glowing faintly. The walls folded outward, forming a reinforced cube around him. The room dimmed. The floor vibrated. And slowly, very slowly, the chamber sealed shut. Inside the chamber, Yarrick looked around. The air felt heavier already, even before the test began. There were scratches and dents all over the metal walls, marks left behind by past soldiers who fought to stay conscious. A calm robotic voice spoke. "Gravity challenge, level 1 initiated." The pressure pushed down on him, but it was manageable. Yarrick tightened his stance and took a slow breath. Outside the chamber, Draxus folded his arms. "Observe," he said to the cadets. "This is where most warriors fail." But Rin narrowed her eyes. She sensed something else, something strange in Draxus's tone. Was this truly a test? Or was this punishment? Revenge for embarrassing him earlier? Inside, the robotic voice announced. "Level 2. The pressure doubled." Jarrick's knees bent slightly. Every alien watching gasped. Level 2 was already difficult for most of them, but Yarrick kept standing. He adjusted, controlled his breathing, and stayed centered. Draxus clicked his tongue, unimpressed. "Continue," he ordered. The robotic voice obeyed. Level 3. The pressure felt like a giant hand pushing Yarrick into floor. His shoulders shook for a moment. He locked his jaw and straightened again. Outside, whispers spread. How is he doing that? That pressure can crush a Thalian. He's just standing there. He doesn't even have reinforced bones. Draxus ignored them and raised the difficulty again. Level 4. A deep, crushing weight slammed down on Yarrick. His breath hitched. His vision flickered for a moment. He planted his feet wider apart. Sweat rolled down his temples. He remembered Earth, his father's voice, the old gym where he trained alone, the long nights where quitting seemed easier but never happened. Humans didn't have stronger bodies, but stronger hearts. He pushed back. Outside the chamber, alarms started blinking. Rin stepped forward, eyes wide. "Sergeant, level 4 is dangerous. Humans don't have a biology for..." "Silence, cadet!" Draxus snapped. "This human thinks he can prove Earth superior? Let him show us." Now the cadets understood. This wasn't a test. This was Draxus trying to break him. "Rin, clench your fists. He could die in there." Draxus looked at her coldly. "Then he is weaker than he claims." Inside the chamber. Level 5. The pressure felt like iron mountains dropping onto him. His spine screamed. His muscles trembled violently. Yarrick fell to one knee. Every alien watching cried out. Some in fear, some in relief, some in triumph. Draxus smirked. Finally. But Yarrick didn't give up. He pressed one fist into the ground, trying to push himself back up. His arms shook. His lungs burned. Every nerve felt like fire. But he remembered his purpose. He remembered why he came. Slowly, painfully, he started to rise. Halfway, more, his legs straightened. And then he stood, fully upright. Inside the chamber, Yarrick roared in pain, but also in defiance. Outside the chamber, the cadets stared in total shock. Rin's eyes filled with tears. He's standing at level 5. Draxus's wings twitched with fury. He hadn't expected this. Not even close. The robotic voice spoke again. Level 6 will begin in 10 seconds. Rin shouted, "Stop the test." Draxus said nothing. Yarrick heard the countdown. 10 seconds. 9. 8. He breathed deeply. He braced himself. He wasn't done yet. Not even close. Inside the sealed gravity chamber, Yarrick stood trembling. His legs felt like stone pillars about crack. His lungs burned like fire. Sweat dripped from his chin to the metal floor. His entire body screamed for him to stop, but his spirit did not. The robotic countdown continued. Level 6 starting in 5, 4, 3. Outside, Rin stepped forward until she stood directly in front of Sergeant Draxus. "End the test," she demanded. Her voice was not loud, but it was steady. "This is not training anymore. This is cruelty." Draxus did not look at her. His eyes stayed fixed on the chamber. The human challenged our strength. He challenged our traditions. Now he will learn what true strength requires. Rin's tail lashed behind her in anger. Strength is not cruelty. Some cadets murmured in agreement. Others watched silently, unsure whose side they belonged on. The robotic voice finished its countdown. Level 6 initiated. The chamber erupted with crushing gravity. Yarrick hit the ground instantly. It felt like a planet had fallen on him. His chest flattened against the cold metal floor. His arms could not move. His vision went white, then black, then white again. His ears rang like alarms. His bones felt like they might snap. He couldn't breathe. For a moment, a single, terrifying thought entered his mind. Is this how it ends? But then, another voice pushed through his pain. The memory of his father's rough, warm tone. Doesn't matter how heavy the world feels. You stand anyway, even if you're shaking, even if it hurts. Humans don't stay down, son. A spark lit inside Yarrick's chest. Not anger, not fear, something stronger. Defiance. He pushed one hand against the floor. It didn't move. He tried again, harder. His fingers twitched. His arm trembled. The cadets outside watched with wide eyes as his hand slowly slid forward, then pressed down. Draxus whispered, "Impossible." Rin stepped closer to the chamber window. "Come on, Yarrick, come on." Inside, Yarrick grit his teeth so hard it hurt. He pushed again. His shoulder lifted a few centimeters off the floor. The weight smashed him back down. He pushed a third time. This time, he didn't stop. This time, it wasn't muscle. It wasn't strength. It was sheer will. Humans had always survived the impossible. This was just another impossible thing. Slowly, painfully, shaking uncontrollably, Yarrick pushed himself up onto one knee. The cadets gasped. Is he insane? No one can do that. Level 6 crushes even elite soldiers. But Yarrick was an elite soldier. He was something else entirely. He was human. Inside, Yarrick planted one foot on the ground. His vision blurred. He felt like he was drowning in gravity itself. He pushed. He rose. Halfway, 3/4, and finally, he stood, bent, shaking, barely conscious, but standing. A human standing under level 6. The chamber alarm started flashing red. Warning. Structural stress detected. Warning. Human vitals critical. Rin shouted. Stop it. He will die. Draxus growled. No, he. A senior officer's voice boomed across the hall. Sergeant Draxus, that is enough. Everyone turned. High Commander Oros, one of the highest-ranking officers in the entire alliance, stood at the entrance, wings spread wide. Behind him were 3 other senior officials, all staring in shock at the readings on their tablets. Draxus stiffened. Commander, You were exceeding safety protocols, Oros said coldly. Open the chamber. Now. Draxus hesitated. Oros stepped closer, towering over him. Now. Draxus pressed the release button, though anger pulsed through him. With a loud mechanical hiss, the chamber unlocked. Gravity returned to normal. Yara collapsed instantly. Rin sprinted forward, sliding onto her knees beside him. She gently lifted his head. Yarrick, can you hear me? He opened one eye slightly. Did I pass? Rin almost laughed and cried at the same time. Yes, you passed, idiot. You passed everything. 2 medical bots arrived, scanning his body. The readout showed extreme strain, but no fatal injuries. Miraculously, no bones were broken. As the bots lifted him onto a floating stretcher, a strange sound spread across the hall. Clapping. At first, it was only 1 or 2 cadets. Then 5. Then 10. Then the entire training hall. Aliens from 5 different species clapped, stomped, or used their own cultural gestures of respect. All for one exhausted human. Commander Oros stepped forward and faced cadets. Let this be recorded, he said loudly. A human cadet has survived a gravity level no recruit has ever endured. Not in decades. Not in centuries. Every cadet quieted. Oros looked at Yarrick. Humanity has been underestimated for too long. Today, that ends. Yarrick looked up weakly, confused. I just didn't want to fall. Oros nodded. And that is exactly why you are powerful. Rin squeezed his hand. Draxus watched silently from the corner, jaw tight, anger and shame twisting through him. But it didn't matter anymore. Everyone had seen the truth. Earth's strength was not in its weapons, not in its armies, but in the unbreakable spirit of its people. As Yarrick was carried away to the medbay, the cadets whispered among themselves. Some whispered in awe, some whispered in inspiration, but all whispered the same thought. Humans are not weak. And Yarrick Beard, the human who stood under crushing gravity, became the first human cadet in history to earn the respect of the entire Alien Academy.